What's up, everyone? I'm Dave Householder, and we're going to start reading through for the next 3 days the Christmas story from Luke chapter 2. Now, I encourage you, if you're going to have a Christmas dinner with folks you share your life with, I would encourage you during that dinner at some point, maybe after it, maybe before, to pull out the King James Version of the Bible, if you have it, and read Luke chapter 2. It is an absolutely sublime story. It's the reason we celebrate Christmas is because of what Luke wrote. Because we don't have much on Christmas. We have a little bit in the book of Matthew, but it's nothing like this. And Mark and John don't mention Christmas. They start with Jesus as an adult doing his ministry. So I'd invite you to get familiar with Luke chapter 2, and it really does sound best in the King James Version. I'm not one of those King James purists who thinks we always have to read the old version, but there is nothing to compare to the way these folks translated into English the fantastic wording of Luke. We'd be the Bible would be infinitely poorer if it wasn't for the Gospel of Luke. The Gospel of Luke has those fantastic stories like the walk to Emmaus, the Good Samaritan, the prodigal son, and those are found nowhere else in the Bible. So we're very grateful to Dr. Luke for putting this together for us. And I'm going to just start reading, and you're going to hear the rest of the story, some background stuff as we go along. And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus. Now, Caesar Augustus was a big deal. There's only two people I know in human history who've had months named after them, Julius Caesar, July, and Augustus Caesar, August. So he's a big deal. He's the emperor. He's running everything. And it's kind of interesting how Luke puts him here in contrast to this baby Jesus, the real king, the one who's really going to affect the world so much more than Caesar. Nobody would have bet on that at the time. Once it was told to me that Paul, the Apostle Paul, was probably beheaded under Emperor Nero. And everybody thought Nero was all that and Paul was a nobody. But now in the year 2020, people name their dogs Nero and their sons Paul, which I think is a pretty good indicator of God's priorities in things over time. And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed, or all the known world, what they call the Oikoumene, the civilized world of the western part of Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. Outside of that, they saw barbarians, basically. So they wanted to tax everybody. Rome depended on taxes because Roman citizens didn't pay tax. Wouldn't that be nice if whatever country you're listening in, where you're a citizen, you don't have to pay taxes, and it's just the people on the outside that have to pay. Basically, taxes were leveled just heavily on the Jewish people because they were so productive and it was such a prosperous part of the empire, and most of them weren't Roman citizens. So they got taxed, and this is a big theme in the New Testament, tax collectors and the Romans basically paying for everything they do in Rome with taxes from throughout the empire, from the people that they had conquered. And this taxing was first made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria. Luke is a very serious historian, wants to make sure that we know exactly where to place these things. They didn't have years back then the way we have years. They didn't have BC and AD because Jesus was just being born, for goodness sake. So they had to place the dates in the rule of someone. So when Cyrenius was governor of Syria, and all went to be taxed, every one into his own city. And Joseph also went up from Galilee, up north, out of the city of Nazareth unto Judea, unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David. Now Joseph, according to both Matthew and Luke, was of the royal lineage of David. So he was basically of blue blood, royal blood. And if there had been a People magazine back then, he would have been one of the royals. So Jesus was anything but a peasant. And as far as we know, Joseph was most likely a fairly big deal stone contractor in Nazareth, which was right across the ravine from one of the biggest building sites in the Roman Empire, which was Sepphoris, probably where he and Jesus worked as contractors. The translation of Jesus as carpenter is not a great translation. The word in the Bible is tekton in Greek, which means builder. And back then they built with stone. And Jesus mentioned stone all the time and never mentioned wood. So got to think about that. He even called his right-hand man, Peter, Rocky, Cephas. So you have to kind of look at that. And so here you have this prominent person going back to Bethlehem. He was probably up in Nazareth to make money because there was contracts to be had up there. Went back to Bethlehem, but the challenge is that he had a pregnant fiancée, and that didn't go over real well back then, and doesn't really go over that well in a lot of places even this day. To be taxed with Mary, his espoused wife, the one who was basically betrothed to him, engaged to him, being great with child, about to give birth. Nobody wants to travel when you're great with child. And so going back to his hometown of Bethlehem, where all the family is, to be taxed, that's no fun. To be bringing along a pregnant fiancée, that's no fun, going back home with that. And trying to explain to your family that, oh yeah, but this child's from the Holy Spirit. Now, Joseph believes that. Mary believes that. But I don't think most people would believe that hearing it. And so most likely didn't want to stay with family, wanted to get in and get out, get taxed, and wanted to stay somewhere else. So it was, while they were there, the days were accomplished that she should be delivered. And soon she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. Now that's the beginning of the story. We're going to continue from verse 8 tomorrow. So please subscribe to The Well at Surf City here on YouTube, and follow us every single day. There's nothing better you could do for your soul than to spend 5 minutes in the Bible with us every day. And we would just love to be your tour guides through this greatest of all books. A blessed Christmas to you. We'll see you again with verse 8 and following tomorrow.